Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Selamat pagi semuanya. Semoga sehat selalu. Pada pagi ini Bapak akan berbicara tentang memahami tenses dan bagaimana menguasai tenses. Ya, jadi kalau Anda ingin bisa berbicara bahasa Inggris yang baik dan benar secara akademik dan menulis ketika dalam bahasa Inggris dengan baik dan benar, maka mahasiswa dituntut untuk bisa langsung menguasai tenses dan bisa kerangka untuk menulis ya untuk kalimat dalam bahasa Inggris secara akademik ya. Oke, untuk waktu baiklah Bapak akan membagikan materi ini. Saya simak video ini dan di subscribe ya agar mahasiswa bisa mengikuti pembelajaran. Jadi pelajar itu juga bisa melalui YouTube ya. Jadi kita terus ya dan dilatih ya. Jadi kalau Anda mau menguasai bahasa Inggris terus banyak latihan, ya tidak hanya catat ya, dilatih, dipraktikkan dan sehari-hari ya, harus tekun dan disiplin. Kalau kita mau pandai ya, jadi semua masalah disiplin tekun ya. Kita sudah nonton apa kita kuliah ya, jadi kita mulai itu belajar itu ya, bisa ilmu itu kita dan berusaha. Ngelek. Oke, understanding ya tenses and how to master them, ya, bagaimana memahami tenses dan bagaimana menguasai tenses ya. Jadi penting ya tenses itu betul-betul kata kerja yang memberikan waktu. Jadi kalau dalam bahasa Inggris itu ada 3 waktu. Yang pertama past, present, dan future ya. Oke, jadi di sini jadi tenses menyatakan waktu mengenai kapan satu tindakan atau keadaan terjadi. Jadi ada 3 kategori ya. Yang pertama present, past, future. Dari sini kemudian kategori itu mempunyai 4 subkategori: simple, continuous, dan perfect, dan perfect consistent. Jadi dari sini kita bisa membentuk banyak tenses. Misalnya present ya, simple present tense ya. Kemudian present consistent, present perfect tense, dan present perfect consistent. Kalau past, simple past tense, past continuous tense, past perfect tense, past perfect consistent ya. Kalau future, simple future tense atau present future, present future tense ya. Kemudian present future continuous tense, present future perfect tense, present future perfect continuous tense ya. Nah itu. Jadi dari 3 keadaan tadi kita bisa bentuk 12 tenses ya. Nah, kita lihat silakan video ini, tonton video ini ya. Abdi satu tenses ya, tenses sebagai besar contohnya. Jadi kita lagi dan sediakan waktu atau ternyata kapan terjadinya. Mulai kali ini.
Want to speak real English from your first lesson? Sign up for your free lifetime account at EnglishClass101.com.
Hi everybody, my name is Alicia. In this lesson, I'm going to give an introduction to English tenses. For this lesson, I'm going to give a short introduction to when to use each of the English tenses. I'm also going to share an example of what that tense looks like in a sentence or in a question. So this is just a quick guide. If you want more information about any of these tenses, you can try searching the YouTube channel or our website for a video specifically about one of these tenses. So I hope this is helpful for you. Okay, so let's get started. The first group of tenses I want to look at is the present tense. So for today's lesson, I've organized it into three categories: present, past, and future tenses. So let's begin with the present tense. So in each category, I have four different tenses. I have simple, continuous, perfect, and perfect continuous. You might know continuous as progressive. They mean the same thing. Continuous and progressive mean the same thing for this lesson. So let's begin with the present simple tense. Present simple tense is a tense we use for general facts, for regular actions, and for schedules. So this is stuff that doesn't change. Like he speaks English, for example. She doesn't speak Spanish. That's a simple fact. For regular actions, so things you do every day or every week, for example. And schedule, so that means like a bus or an airplane or maybe a car schedule, something that maintains a regular schedule. An example, two examples of using the present simple tense. First, I work on Mondays. So here, work is my verb. I work on Mondays. Simple present tense. A negative, I don't eat lunch at 2 o'clock. So these are simple present tense statements. In this case, they're just simple statements of fact, really. Okay, so let's continue to the next one. The second tense is the present continuous tense. The present continuous tense. So present continuous tense we use for continuing actions, and that means actions that are happening now. So for example, I'm teaching, I'm standing, I'm speaking. Those are actions happening now. So we use it for continuing actions now, like physical actions. We also use it for trends. So things happening in your society right now, for example. So examples would be like that TV show is becoming popular, or the world is getting warmer, for example. So these are things happening now also. We can use it for one-time actions as well. And this relates a little bit to future tense, which I'm going to talk about later too. But something happening just one time in the future, we can use the continuous form to describe that. So for example, I'm working this Saturday. So sometimes students ask, what's the difference? Why is it I'm working this Saturday and not I work this Saturday? Remember, we talked about the present simple tense. We use that for regular actions, for general facts. So if you usually work on Saturdays, you should use the present simple tense. I work on Saturdays. If, however, this Saturday is special and you don't usually work on Saturdays, you should use the continuous tense. I'm working this Saturday. So it sounds like that's not a typical thing for you. I'm working this Saturday. Okay, let's go on to the third tense. The third tense is the present perfect tense, the present perfect tense. So we use the present perfect tense for general life experience or lack thereof. So lack thereof means no life experience, not having a life experience. So something that you did in the past, but not at a specific point in time. The specific point in time is not so important here, or maybe we don't know. So example, a negative example, he has never been to Spain. He has never been to Spain. In this case, no life experience of going to Spain is what this means. So this is an example of present perfect tense. Here we have he has. Remember, we need to attach has or have before our past participle verb form here. So for more information about this tense, you can check the channel. There's more information here. So let's continue on to the next tense now. The next tense is the present perfect continuous tense. Present perfect continuous. We use this tense for actions that started in the past and continue to the present. So something you started doing in the past, some point in the past, it's not always important when, but that action continues. So you use this a lot to talk about your studies, for example. We use words like for and since and maybe ago with this as well. So an example of this, I've been studying English for 2 years. So here we see I've been, this I've is the contracted, the reduced form of I have. I have been studying. So this is the continuous or the progressive form. In this case, I've used the word for. I've used for because I'm using 2 years, which is a length of time. We can use since, for example, I've been studying English since 2016. So we use since before a specific point in time. We can use ago as well. Usually we pair it with since. I've been studying English since 2 years ago. You'll notice when we use ago, however, we change from using, in my first example, 2016 to a length of time, since 2 years ago. So there are a few different changes you need to make there. You can check the other video on the channel for more information about that grammar point. Okay, let's move on to the second group for today, which is the past tense. Let's look at the 4 points in the past tense here. First one is the past simple or just simple past tense. Simple past tense is used for actions that started and finished in the past. So for example, I taught simple present tense earlier. So I used past tense. I taught simple present tense because the action started and finished in the past. Another example, I worked all night. I worked all night. So work is my verb. I use simple past tense worked because the action started and finished in the past. Another example, a negative, they didn't come. They didn't come to the party. They didn't come to the office. The action was in the past. It refers to something that did not happen in the past. So there was no action in the past, but it's over, it's finished. So we use simple past tense to talk about these simple actions.
Baru sosok dengan Bongani Blend. Lebih lembut membersihkan, wangi segar tahan lama. Yuk cobain.
Surga itu maukah
Jadi anak sekejajan, sumpah mati yang lo mau. Semua tinggal GoFood.
jika makanan ada di GoFood.
Actions that started and finished in the past. Okay, let's go on to the past continuous tense then. Past continuous is for actions that were continuing in the past. So this one is one we often use with a specific point in time along with it. So let's look at an example first. We were listening to music. We were listening to music yesterday, or we were listening to music at 8 p.m. When were you listening to music? When was that action continuing? At 8 p.m. or yesterday. So it's common to include a point in time with this grammar point. Another example, like I was doing something, ing form there. So this is one that's some people have questions about, like why should I use that? When should I use that? It's typically used in response to someone's question, like what were you doing last night, for example, or what were you doing this morning? So you want to know someone's activity at a specific point in time. You can use this grammar point to respond to that question. Okay, let's move along to the past perfect tense, our next one. Past perfect tense is for actions that were completed or not completed at a non-specific point in the past, at a non-specific point in the past. So this one is kind of difficult, and it's perhaps not used quite so much in everyday conversation. This is used a bit more in writing. This is a grammar point that's especially helpful when we want to show kind of a timeline in our writing. To show that an action happened before another action in the past, we can use the past perfect tense. So here's a couple of examples. First one, they hadn't departed yet. So here, hadn't is the reduced form of had not. They hadn't departed yet. And I had taken my lunch break. So we would use sentences like these if we're telling a story. So we're telling a story about the past, and we want to show that one action happened before another action. When we want to talk about the earlier action, so the thing that happened earlier, like more in the past, we use the past perfect tense. Then we can use the simple past tense to explain the action that happened closer to the present. So for example, I had taken my lunch break when I saw the delivery man came, or something like that. So you can see my second point there. That's kind of a strange example, but you see that my second point there uses the simple past tense. I saw the delivery man. So I had taken my lunch break further in the past when I saw the delivery man came. So that's simple past. So this is probably more common in writing, but it is used in speaking as well too. So this is what we use past perfect tense to do. Okay, let's move on then to another challenging point, past perfect continuous tense. Past perfect continuous. These are sentences or questions for actions that started in the past and continued to like an unspecified point in the past. So the action has finished as well. That's a key difference with the present perfect continuous. With present perfect continuous, the action is happening now still. That behavior still continues. Key point though with past perfect continuous is that the action started at some point in the past and then continued and finished as well, but at some unspecified point. So maybe we don't know exactly when the action finished, but it's done, it's complete. So let's look at an example. They had been waiting since 3 p.m. So here they had been waiting. This shows us that there was some waiting period. So the waiting started at 3 p.m. and the waiting continued and continued and continued. We don't know when the waiting finished, but this grammar point shows us that the waiting has finished. We're finished waiting. That's done. We wanted to talk only about this period of time the people were waiting in the past. So this is the grammar point that we use to talk about things that were happening over a period of time in the past and then finished. So this is something, again, we use when telling stories. We're showing a sequence of events, actually. Okay, let's move along then to the last group for today's lesson, the future tense. Future tense. Let's start with the future simple tense. Future simple tense. This is for actions that are planned or unplanned for the future. There are actually a lot of different things we can do to make the future simple tense. Some very common ways of making future simple are through using will and won't and going to.
Baru sosok dengan botani black. Lebih lembut membersihkan, wangi segar tahan lama. Yuk cobain. Daphne enak sepedadan.
And not going to. And earlier in this lesson, I mentioned using the continuous tense, the present continuous tense, the ing form of a verb to make statements about the future also. So there are many ways to make simple future statements. Let's look at a couple of examples. First, I'll have a glass of wine. This uses will, I'll. I'll is the reduced form of I will have a glass of wine. That's a future statement. Also, he's going to cook dinner. In this one, I've used going to express that. So these are just simple things about planned or perhaps unplanned. Like he's not going to cook dinner would be an unplanned action in the future, or something that's not going to happen in the future. Okay, so let's go on to the future continuous tense now. Future continuous tense. This is for actions you think will or will not be continuing in the future. Something you think will be continuously happening in the future. Let's look at an example. I'm not going to be working at company A. I'm not going to be working at company A. So here you can see we have going to. I'm not going to. Plus, we have a verb in the continuous tense. I'm not going to be working at company A. Meaning, in other words, I'm not going to have a job at company A, or I'm not going to continue my position at company A in the future. That's my thought now in the present about the future. So at that time in the future, like in 1 year, for example, I will not be working at that company, or I'm not going to be working at company A. So that's the idea behind the future continuous tense. Okay, let's move along to the future perfect tense then. So future perfect tense refers to actions that you think will have started at some point in the future. So remember, you're thinking in the present right now. But this grammar point is used to talk about something you imagine in the future that starts at some point and you think might be continuing into the future. Maybe something started and maybe continues. This is the idea here. So let's look at an example. I will have lived in China for 2 years. I will have lived in China. So here I'm using will to show it's a future tense statement. I will plus have lived. This is the same thing that we use for the present perfect tense that we talked about earlier, that past participle plus have or has, but we're attaching it to a future tense will. I will have lived in China for 2 years. So when would we use this? So if, for example, someone asks you a question about your future and they say like, so where do you see yourself in like 2020, for example? Or where do you imagine you're going to live in 2020, for example? You can say, oh, I will have lived in China for 2 years. So meaning at that time in 2020, I will have lived in China for 2 years. So that means not now, but in the future. At that point in time in the future, I will have started living in China, and that will have continued for 2 years. So that's what that means. That's a guess about the future, a future time period, that something will have continued in the future. So again, quite a challenging grammar point, but something definitely to look into. So again, not used perhaps as much as the present perfect tense, but great for storytelling and for imagining your future too. Okay, so let's move on to the last point for today's lesson, the future perfect continuous tense. Future perfect continuous. This is a tense that you use similar to the last one, but for actions you think will or won't have started and will be continuing. So something that's going to have started again in the future, something started, and the action will have continued into the future. Example, I won't have been eating meat for 3 months. I won't have been eating meat for 3 months. So for this one, let's imagine that you decided last month to stop eating meat. So that's fine, actually. For this sentence, that's okay. You made a decision last month to stop eating meat. Then someone asks you about your progress, like how's it going? Like what are you going to do next month? And you can say to yourself, well, at that point, next month, by next month in the future, you can use the sentence, I won't, so won't, negative, will not, I won't have been eating meat for 3 months, So that means from the point in time I started it in the past until this point in the future, so not present, but into the future, this entire time, my behavior not eating meat, that's going to have continued. So you're making a guess about the future. So at this future point in time, that behavior I started in the past will have continued and continued and continued. And at this point, it will be 3 months total for that behavior. So we use this to talk about something, some future thing that will have continued or will be continuing into the future. So will have continued, meaning something that started in the past and continues into the future, or will be continuing, meaning it's still going into the future as well. So there are a couple of like very, very subtle grammar points to consider there too. So those are a couple of maybe tough grammar points, but they're really good for storytelling and for talking about your future as well. Okay, so I know that this was a lot of information in this lesson. If you have some questions about where to find more details about any of these grammar points, you can check the YouTube channel. Our YouTube channel has some resources for these grammar points. There's also some information on the website. If you don't see it on the website or on the YouTube channel yet, please have a little bit of patience. We are making new stuff all the time and we'll hopefully have this available for you soon. So please keep checking back in with us. Great, so that's everything for this lesson. I hope that it was useful for you. If you have any questions or comments, please feel free to leave a comment below the video. If you like the video, please don't forget to give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and check us out at EnglishClass101.com for lots of other things that you can use to study English. Thanks very much for watching this lesson, and I will see you again soon. Bye-bye.
Dan oke, jadi Bapak akan jelaskan kembali bahwa present tense itu digunakan untuk menjelaskan suatu aktivitas yang bersifatnya kebiasaan, ya, fakta, jadwal, ya, contoh seperti I eat, ya, jadi makan, saya makan. Nah, ini kebiasaan, ya, tiap hari makan, ya. Jadi kemudian juga bisa misalnya sifat present tense digunakan untuk menyatakan suatu kegiatan apa tuh aktivitas yang sifat permanen, misalnya I work in Pancabakti University, ya. Kemudian present tense itu contohnya I'm eating. Jadi di sini gunakan to be and is are, ya, plus inform I am eating, he is eating, she is eating, dan sebagainya, ya. She is speaking English, I'm speaking English, I'm teaching, she is teaching, it is teaching. Jadi kalau present tense itu mencatat suatu perubahan sedang dikerjakan pada saat berbicara, pada saat bicara, ya, dan singkat waktunya. Jadi kalau present perfect tense pada satu perbuatan sudah dikerjakan, sudah I have eaten, hasilnya saya kenyang, ya. I have eaten menggunakan kata bantu have atau has. He has eaten, he has eaten, nah, itu kan. He has eaten, jadi dia sudah makan, hasilnya kenyang, ya. Jadi sudah berhasil. Jadi satu perbuatan yang sudah dikerjakan dan ada hasilnya. Misalnya I have done my homework. Jadi kalau dan I have done my homework berarti sudah dikerjakan dan sudah selesai dikerjakan. Kemudian present perfect instead ini satu perbuatan yang sedang tengah dikerjakan dan masih berlangsung ke depannya. Misalnya I have been eating. Waktu sudah I have been eating, saya lagi makan dan masih sedang makan, masih terus makan. Nah, ini namanya I have been eating. Jadi I have been eating, saya sedang makan. Saya lagi makan. Ya, jadi belum selesai, masih berlanjut makannya. I have been eating, ya. Nah, ini kalau seperti saja ada present tense, present tense, present tense, present perfect tense, dan present perfect tense, ya. Kalau present perfect tense ini have been dan has been, ya. Kalau have been ini guna untuk subjeknya I, we, you, they, Tom, and Linda untuk dia. Kalau has, he, she, it, dan Tom dan sebagainya. Ini sebenarnya tunggal, tidak tunggal, ya. Umpamanya tadi present perfect tense, ya. Nah, she has been living in Pontianak for 2 years. Ya, she has been living in Pontianak for 2 years. Jadi kegiatan tinggalnya ini dimulai pada 2 tahun yang lalu dan sekarang masih tinggal di Pontianak sudah 2 tahun namanya, dan mungkin masih tinggal di Pontianak seterusnya, ya. Datang 4 tahun. Nah, itu maknanya she has been living in Pontianak for 2 years. Kemudian dalam past tense ini satu tenses yang menyatakan suatu kejadian di waktu lampau dan tidak ada hubungan waktu sekarang, ya. I ate, jadi kalau I ate ini saya makan, berarti saya tidak makan, ini ya, makan dalam waktu lampau. Nah, I ate, ya. I spoke English yesterday, kemarin saya belajar Inggris, sekarang tidak lagi, kan, karena tadi itu tidak ada hubungan waktu sekarang, tapi kejadian itu terjadi waktu lampau. I spoke English yesterday. Kalau kemarin Anda misalnya memasak nasi, bilang I cooked rice yesterday. Nah, kan tidak makan nasi karena kegiatan ini tidak terjadi sekarang. Kemudian past tense tense. Nah, ini juga sama, menceritakan bahwa yang sedang terjadi sudah terlampau pada waktu yang terjadi. I was eating when you came here yesterday. I was eating when you came here yesterday. Ketika Anda datang kemarin, saya sedang makan, ya. Kemarin, kalau Anda datang kemarin, saya sedang makan. I was eating when you came here yesterday. Tom was studying English when it rained yesterday. Ketika hari kemarin, Tom sedang belajar Inggris. Saya perhatikan hari hujan, ya. Tom sedang belajar Inggris kemarin. Nah, ini di past tense. Jadi menunjukkan waktu yang sedang terjadi di waktu lampau pada waktu ada kegiatan lain terjadi, itu kan. Past perfect tense. Nah, ini menunjukkan bahwa kegiatan ini sudah selesai terjadi pada waktu lampau. I had eaten before you came here yesterday, ya kan. Saya sudah makan ketika sebelum kamu datang kemarin. Jadi sebelum Anda datang kemarin, saya sudah makan, sudah selesai makan, kenyang, ya. Sebelum kamu datang, I had eaten. Jadi ini kan satu bulan sudah terjadi sebelum kegiatan terjadi. Jadi dalam ayat kita kayak eaten, ya. Terus gini, Tom sudah mengerjakan PR-nya sebelum guru itu datang. Sebelum itu masuk kelas kemarin, ya. Tom sudah mengerjakan PR-nya sebelum itu masuk kelas kemarin. Nah, jadi sebelum masuk kelas itu sudah selesai mengerjakan PR-nya. Nah, jadi Tom had done his homework before the teacher entered the class. Nah, ya. Jadi sebelum guru itu masuk kelas kemarin, Tom sudah kerjakan PR. Jadi PR dari kita gunakan past perfect tense ya, past perfect tense. Kemudian past perfect tense. Jadi satu tenses yang menunjukkan bahwa telah lagi dikerjakan dan masih waktu lampau dan masih terus berlanjut pada waktu lampau pada titik waktu. Itu gini, Tom lagi mengerjakan PR-nya ketika sebelum guru itu datang kemarin. Jadi Tom had been doing his homework before the teacher entered the classroom. Jadi sebelum guru itu datang, Tom lagi mengerjakan PR. Berarti belum selesai. Masih lagi kerjakan, sedang mengerjakannya kan. Dan mungkin atau sampai guru datang. Ada terjadi kan. Jadi Tom had been doing his homework before the teacher enter the classroom. Jadi pada sebelum guru itu datang, Tom lagi kerjakan. Jadi kalau Tom had done his homework before the teacher enter the classroom, sebelum guru itu datang, Tom sudah mengerjakan PR-nya itu selesai. Kalau ini belum. Waktu kita bilang sebelum before the teacher enter the classroom, Tom had been doing his homework, dia masih mengerjakan PR-nya. Kemarin, tapi sebelum guru itu datang. Ya, terus masih berlanjut. Mungkin sampai guru itu datang belum selesai. Nah, ini itu makna past perfect continuous tense. Kemudian di future tense. Kalau simple future tense ini satu tenses yang rencana. Ada rencana, gunakan future tense. So, saya akan makan, I will eat, saya akan belajar, I will study, kan? Jadi dengan will pasti infinitive. Oh, saya akan pergi ke Jakarta besok, I will go to Jakarta tomorrow. Jadi dipraktekkan. Anda kumpulkan banyak kata kerja, praktekkan. Saya akan menulis surat, I will write later. Saya akan makan pagi, I will have breakfast, I will have lunch, I will have dinner. Nah, itu contoh ya, rencana. Jadi kalau Anda ada rencana, gunakanlah simple future tense ya, gunakan future tense. Nah, dipraktekkan. Jadi bahasa itu sebenarnya ketekunan, ya bukan kepintaran. Jadi kalau pintar pun untuk bahasa kalau tidak tekun ya, harus rajin. Misalnya Anda kumpulkan kata kerja dan masuk dalam kalimat. Misalnya sini atau listen, I will listen to the music. Saya watch, nonton. I will watch a film. Go, I will go to a movie. Nah, ya, bagi misalnya naik mobil, I will drive a car. Ya, saya akan bekerja, I will work dan sebagainya. Itu harus future tense ya, pakai will ya. Kalau kita future continuous itu pakai ing. Kalau ada kata kunci seperti ing form, to ing artinya. Nah, pakai be. Jadi kalau pakai subject plus will be plus ing form. I will be eating. Saya sedang makan. Misalnya at 7 a.m. tomorrow. Nah, jam 7 besok saya sedang makan. Jadi kalau Anda datang jam 7 itu saya sedang makan. Nah, tapi besok makannya sekarang sedang ya. I will be eating at 7 a.m. tomorrow. I will be studying English at 7 tonight. Jadi kalau Anda datang jam 7 malam ini, I will be studying. Saya sedang belajar. Ini sedang masa depan ya. Nanti kalau kita sudah kerjakan pada waktu akan datang, masa titik waktu akan datang. Dan Linda will be cooking at this time tomorrow. Jadi pada jam saat ini besok Linda sedang masak. Nah, jadi kalau Anda datang besok pada saat ini jam berapa? Jadi jam 5:48 itu berarti Linda sedang masak. Sekarang sih belum tidak masak, tapi besoknya jam 5:48 jika Anda datang ke rumahnya jam 5:48 besok Linda sedang masak, maka Linda will be cooking at this time tomorrow. Itu maknanya ya. Makna future continuous tense. Kemudian future perfect. Nah, kalau perfect pakai ada have-nya plus past participle. Nah, ini lebih future perfect, subject plus will have plus past participle. I will have eaten before you come here tomorrow. Jadi kalau Anda datang besok, Anda sebelum datang besok saya sudah makan. Nah, besok sudah saya makan. Tapi sekarang belum makan, besok sudah saya makan. Ya, I will have done my homework before the teacher enter the classroom tomorrow. Sebelum guru itu sudah masuk kelas besok, saya sudah punya PR. Jadi PR-nya besok tuh sebelum guru masuk tuh sudah selesai PR saya. Itu makanya I will have done my homework before the teacher enter the classroom tomorrow. Tapi besoknya. Nah, ini namanya future perfect tense ya. Nah, kemudian future perfect tense kalau di continuous ada pakai inform ya. Tambah been, future perfect tense subject plus will have been plus inform. I will have been eating. Nah, ya. I will have been eating. Jadi waktu besok tuh saya sudah lagi makan. Tentu makan. Nah, itu ya, dan terus berlanjut makannya. Atau kapan berhenti makannya? Enggak kan? I will have been studying English for 2 years. Artinya saya rencananya misalnya I will have been studying English for 2 years next month. Jadi bulan depan tuh saya masih belajar bahasa Inggris dan lama udah 2 tahun bulan depan. Ini bulan depan udah 2 tahun belajar bahasa Inggris dan masih terus belajar. Maka I will have been studying English for next month for 2 years next month. Di bulan depan saya masih belajar bahasa Inggris dan sudah 2 tahun lamanya bulan depan. Sekarang 2 tahun, nah, tapi bulan depan sudah ada tahun dan saya terus masih belajar. Maka itu future perfect understand. I will have been studying English for 2 years next month. Nah, ya. So gini, pada bulan Februari Februari tahun 2025 saya sudah tinggal di Pontianak selama 20 tahun. I will have been living in Pontianak for 20 years on February 2025. Jadi pada bulan Februari nanti itu saya tinggal sudah 20 tahun dan terus masih terus berlangsung tinggalnya di Pontianak. Inilah tentang 12 tenses. Jadi semua tenses itu ada waktunya, kapan terjadinya ya, kapan digunakannya ya. Jadi harus paham. Jadi untuk harus pandai berbahasa Indonesia, harus pandai memahami makna tenses tersebut ya. Kemudian jadi mengapa tes penting ya? Kenapa kok masa perlu belajar tenses? Kenapa penting? Karena tes itu untuk memperjelas kapan suatu yang terjadi. Ya untuk meyakinkan bahwa komunikasi itu dapat dengan secara akurat dan benar dan efektif ya, dan memperbaiki menulis ya, dan memperbaiki keterampilan menulis dan berbicara ya. Jadi kalau kita mau nulis itu dengan baik akademik kita sudah tenses. Jadi kalau anak saya sedang tidur, I'm sleeping, bukan I sleeping, salah I'm sleeping gitu ya. Kalau he mana he is sleeping, itu kan menulis dengan benar secara akademik ya, tidak pasal berbicara ya. Jadi semua ada tesisnya, ada pola-polanya. Jadi juga bisa berbicara, kalau kita berbicara bahasa Inggris dengan tes itu teratur, itu enak dan mudah dipahami. Dibandingkan kalau Anda berbicara bahasa Inggris tanpa tenses itu sulit dipahami kan. Nah, misalnya dia yang sedang nonton, he watching he do watching, salah kan, he's watching film now. Tentunya I eat best, I ate best, I will eat. Jadi dengan menggunakan kata kerja yang berbeda dengan waktu juga beda makna ya. Kita tonton video ini ya. Gimana?
Hello, lovely students, and welcome back to English with Lucy. I have got such an exciting video for you because now there are various studies, various claims, but the general consensus is that 90 to 95% of all written and spoken English is done in just 5 grammar tenses. So what are we going to do today? We are going to go through.
Jadi 90 persen sampai 90% itu jadi ada 5 tenses yang umum digunakan ketika Anda itu menulis dan berbicara bahasa Inggris ya.
Those 5 grammar tenses so that you can get that little bit closer to fluency. We're going to improve your grammar, fluency, and accuracy in the most efficient way possible. To make your life even easier, I have created a free PDF for you to download. It contains all of the information about these 5 grammar tenses that make up 90, if not 95% of spoken and written English. We look at them in greater detail with more examples, and I've also included a quiz so you can test your understanding. If you think that that will help you, if you'd like to get your free copy, all you have to do is click on the link in the description box. You enter your name and your email address. You sign up to my mailing list, and the PDF will arrive directly in your inbox. After that, you will automatically receive my free lesson PDFs every week, plus all of my news, course information, and offers. It's a free service and you can unsubscribe at any time. Okay, let's start this amazingly efficient grammar lesson by reviewing the English verb tenses. So technically there are only 3 tenses: the present, the past, and the future, but we have 4 different aspects within these tenses: the simple, the continuous, the perfect simple, and the perfect continuous. When we combine these 4 aspects with the 3 verb tenses, we get what we typically refer to as the 12 verb tenses. Some people like to include the conditionals in the tenses. I don't. You will hear some people say there are 16 tenses. I like to set the conditionals apart. Let's have a look at each one really quickly, just to refresh our memories. The present simple is used for general truths, habits, and permanent situations. The present continuous is used for actions happening now or around the present moment. The present perfect is used for past actions with a connection to the present or for experiences. And the present perfect continuous is used for actions that started in the past and are ongoing up to the present. Now the pasts. The past simple is used to talk about completed actions in the past. The past continuous is used for actions that were in progress at a specific time in the past. The past perfect is used for actions completed before a specific time in the past. And the past perfect continuous is used for actions that started in the past, continued, and were completed before another past event. Don't worry, we'll look at some of these in more detail. And finally, the future. We have the future simple, used for actions that will happen in the future. The future continuous, used for actions that will be in progress at a specific time in the future. The future perfect, used for actions that will be completed before a specific time in the future. And the future perfect continuous, used for actions that will start in the future, continue, and be completed before another future event. Okay, that's a lot of information to remember, and I covered it very, very briefly. Don't worry, we're going to go deeper. I know a lot of English learners struggle with deciding which verb tense to use in a given situation. Well, lucky for you, not all verb tenses are created equal. Let's go ahead and look at this beautiful chart I made to see which are the 5 most commonly used verb tenses in both spoken and written English. By the way, if you're curious about the numbers, I've added links to various studies on verb tense frequency. You can find those in the description box. Okay, time for the big reveal. Our most common verb tense, making up nearly 60% of all English communication, is, drum roll, the present simple. We then have that followed by the past simple at close to 20%, then the future simple at around 8%. So that's 3 tenses making nearly 88% of the entire usage, according to certain studies. Then we have the present perfect simple at around 6% and present continuous at 5%. And then we have this tiny sliver of pie that contains the other 7 verb tenses. Now, if you're good at maths, you'll notice that's 99% for all of those tenses. In the title, I say 90% because I don't 100% trust those numbers. But don't let this chart fool you. Each and every verb tense has its time and place, but for general day-to-day conversations, these 5 are going to be your bread and butter. So let's go ahead and see how you can start using each of these tenses to the best of your ability. As you just learned, the present simple makes up a large portion of daily communication, and rightfully so. The present, after all. Let's look at some of the most common uses of the present simple. Firstly, we use it to talk about facts and statements that are always true. Most people prefer to shop online, or the supermarket is busy on Saturday mornings. We also use it for statements that are true in the present. You are my best friend, Jasmine. Or I can't bake to save my life. Look at this cake. You can just show a really rubbish cake. And we also use it for routine actions or habits in the present, often used with an adverb of frequency. Do you always bike to work? Or I never see her in yoga class these days. We use it to refer to scheduled events in the future. Carmeen's holiday officially starts on the 5th of October. Or my stag do kicks off at 10 p.m. at Boots and Brews. And the last one I'll mention today, we use it to give directions or instructions. Mix the flour and water together to create a thick paste. Or to get to the bookshop, walk down to the corner and take a left. As you can probably tell from our examples, these kinds of statements and questions make up a large portion of our daily conversations. So it's no wonder why the present simple topped our list. Next up, we have the past simple. Of course, this is the second most used verb tense because we use it to talk about completed actions in the past. And we sure do love to talk about the past. Look at a news article or pick up your favorite book. Most of them rely heavily on the past simple tense. Let's go ahead and look at some uses of this very versatile tense. It's commonly used to describe action and fed his dog. And number 4, it's used to discuss past states or conditions. We were so tired after our long hike yesterday. All right, here to help you with your project if you need it. And requests. Will you pass me the salt? Got it? Good, because it's time to move on from the future. The house. We use it for life events and experiences. They have traveled around Asia and most of Europe, and we use it for actions or events at an unspecified time in the past. Yep. Conference next month, he changed his mind. We use it for actions happening around a specific time. I'm working this morning, but I'll be free this afternoon. And we use it for describing things that are gradually changing or improving. The city is slowly becoming more eco-friendly with new.
Jadi ada beberapa tips untuk menguasai tenses. Pertama, Anda harus memahami tentang waktunya. Jadi kalau kita gunakan simple present tense, present, kita gunakan now, always, every day. Ini simple present tense ya. Present tense now, kalau present simple present tense always, every day ya. Jadi ada ciri-cirinya. Kalau past tense, yesterday, last week, ago, itu simple past tense. Kalau future, tomorrow, next week, in the future. Ini ciri tentang waktu dalam untuk tenses simple present tense, simple past tense, dan future. Juga kita juga harus bisa menggunakan visual waktu ya. Jadi kita kapan kita bicara, kalau kita bicara setiap hari berarti kita gunakan simple present tense. Kalau kita membicarakan kegiatan waktu lampau kita gunakan simple past tense. Kalau kita punya bencana kita gunakan future tense. Nah itu ya. Jadi untuk menguasai tense Anda juga harus mempelajari bentuk kata kerja. Ada infinitive, ada past tense, ada past participle, ada present participle. Misalnya eat, ate, eaten, eating, speak, spoke, spoken, speaking. Jadi Anda buat daftar kata kerja, nanti masukkan ke tenses ya. Kemudian Anda praktek dengan contoh-contohnya. Jadi Anda buat kalimat dengan tense yang berbeda. Contohnya Anda harus tahu apa tuh rumus-rumusnya. Anda buat kata kerja artinya apa? Apanya kata eat, makan, infinitive, I eat every day. I ate yesterday, I will eat tomorrow, I'm eating now. Nah, gitu cara berlatihnya ya. Belajar, I study every day, I studied yesterday, I will study tomorrow, I'm studying now. Nah, itu cara berlatih tenses ya, dan struktur namanya. Kemudian misalnya di cook, I cook every day, I cook yesterday, I will cook tomorrow, I'm cooking now. Nah, itu cara berlatihnya. Anda juga bisa menggunakan alat lain seperti misalnya Anda coba nanti download aplikasi Duolingo di HP Anda atau di dan Grammarly untuk latihan. Dan Anda bisa latihan di Duolingo. Coba Anda download aplikasi ini ya. Kemudian, nah ini, jadi kalau Anda mau berlatih tenses ini, mau pandai berbicara bahasa harus berlatih tenses. Pertama, Anda latihan membuat kalimatnya ya. Bisa gini, Anda merubah satu kalimat dalam berbahasa tenses. Contohnya I eat, I eat, I ate, I will eat. Nah, ya, kalau simple present tense, I eat, misalnya I'm eating, ya. Kemudian I have eaten, I been eating. Nah, itu contohnya ya. I will eat, I will be eating, I will have eaten, I will have been eating. Nah, contoh gitu. Bagi misalnya past tense, I ate, I had eaten, I had been eating, gitu ya. Contoh. Nah, atau Anda juga bisa membuat satu cerita dengan Anda tulis satu cerita pendek dengan menggunakan banyak tenses. Nah, itu latihan ya. Tapi untuk latih ini Anda sudah harus tahu bahasa tenses ya. Jadi kalau dilatih tidak bisa. Atau Anda berlatih bercakap-cakap, Anda berlatih berbicara dengan teman-teman atau dengan dosen atau guru berbahasa Inggris ya, gunakan tenses. Atau Anda juga bisa mengerjakan soal-soal kata bahasa yang berkenaan tenses. Anda bisa coba mengikuti ujian step online untuk menguji pemaknaan dan tenses itu ya. Kemudian jadi tenses itu penting untuk berkomunikasi dengan baik dan efektif. Jadi memahami untuk mengetahui tenses itu Anda bisa memahami bentuk kata kerja dan juga mengetahui waktu-waktu yang digunakan tenses itu penting ya. Anda juga harus berlatih secara teratur. Kalau Anda ingin menguasai tenses, kalau tidak teratur tidak bisa ya. Jangan ini berarti sudah latihan, tidak bisa harus latihan minimal 1 hari 10 menit ke 5 menit atau 20 menit gunakan teknik Pomodoro ya. 20 berarti 5 menit istirahat, berarti lagi istirahat. Dan Bapak karena untuk mendownload poster ya, Forest ya, itu teknik untuk berlatih ya dengan Pomodoro 22 menit berarti 5 menit istirahat, lanjut lagi setelah 5 menit berlatih lagi 5 menit istirahat, itu teknik Pomodoro. Jadi harus latihan ya. Untuk bahasa Inggris itu sampai Anda latihan, Anda pastor tensis, karena itu penting ya untuk menciptakan komunikasi yang baik dan efektif dan untuk tertensinya atau memakai kata kerja ya, bahwa ada 4, ada IPT, past tense, past tense ya. Kemudian Inggris. Jadi dalam bis itu Inggris dapat memperluas jaringan, dapat berkomunikasi dengan internasional dan dapat memahami pasar global. Jadi ini penting bagi pengusaha yang ingin mengekspansi usahanya ke pasar internasional ya. Kemudian English and jadi Inggris juga tidak hanya penting bagi karir dan pendidikan, tapi juga untuk pengembangan diri ya. Menguasai bahasa Inggris dapat memberi keyakinan besar dalam komunikasi dalam berkomunikasi dengan orang lain. Nah, itu. Kemudian menguasai bahasa ini dapat membuka berbagai macam peluang dalam karir, pendidikan dan keseharian. Jadi it is important ya, ini suatu investasi yang penting untuk masa depan kita ya. Nah, inilah yang bisa Bapak sampaikan. Jadi bagaimana kita tensis, siap dikuasai yang baik, maka dari Anda bisa berjalan baik, dapat baik secara akademik ya. Jadi untuk Pak konsultasi Anda harus tahu kata waktunya, harus tahu kata kerjanya, Anda dapat berlatih secara teratur. Demikian, semoga bermanfaat. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.